Welcome in to the Brent Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Top Fan TV on YouTube, wherever you want to listen, you can find me. What a great weekend in the NFL. 4 great games. Upsets, game-winning field goals. The Bengals beat the Titans on a game-winning field goal, take out the number 1 seed. The NFC number 1 seed Packers go down to their kryptonite 49ers on a game-winning field goal. Stafford shows up. The Rams beat the GOAT on a game-winning field goal. And last night, the quarterback matchup for the ages, the best game I've ever seen. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen show out as the Chiefs eliminate the Bills for the second year in a row. All things to get into. News from Brent Hughes later. Will Aaron Rodgers move on from Green Bay? Will Tom Brady retire? But I'm going to start with my top takeaways from this weekend. Here we go. My top 5 takeaways from the NFL this weekend. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. Over 700 passing yards and no interceptions between the two of them. 329, 4 touchdowns for Allen. 378 yards, 3 touchdowns for Mahomes. No quarterback in the league is throwing it with the arm strength of Mahomes and Allen and running it with the size, durability, and throwing it on the run, eluding pressure, and still making big completions down the field than these two guys. 700 plus yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions between the two of them. It's the greatest quarterback duel that I've ever seen in my life. It's likely that it's the same for you. This was the best game of the year. Many people are calling it the best game they've ever seen, and it's completely because of the quarterback talent that we just saw last night on display between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, the 49ers own Aaron Rodgers. He may own the Chicago Bears, folks. I would know. I'm a Bears fan. But the 49ers own Aaron Rodgers. Specifically, and even worse, it's in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers 0-4 against the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs. It's the team he grew up a fan of as a kid, by the way, growing up in California. They own him, and they send him home when it matters. 0-4 against the Niners. That's the most losses versus a single opponent in NFL playoff history. They send him home for a living. 4.8 air yards per completion on Sunday was Aaron Rodgers. Fizzled in the moment, thanks to the San Francisco 49ers and that tough defense. You thought Rodgers would be ready in the frozen tundra. Not the case. They do own the Rams too. 6 straight wins against the Rams are the 49ers. So this divisional matchup in the NFC Championship is going to be very interesting. That segues me to number 3. Matthew Stafford showed up. 366 yards in the air for Stafford, 2 touchdowns, a game-sealing throw to the wide receiver of the year, Cooper Kupp, setting up Matt Gay for the game-winning field goal for the Rams. They take down the GOAT. Stafford threw no picks. We've got to give him credit. In Detroit, always a great talent, could never win a playoff game. Forget the big playoff game. Couldn't win a playoff game in Detroit. He just won his second playoff game, played really well, didn't turn the ball over. Despite the Bucs comeback, they finished the deal. Number 4, Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback in the NFL. If you didn't know it, I knew it for certain last week. From coming back from the injury to his knee to his first playoff game last week, we can go back to LSU. I've never seen Joe Burrow fold under pressure. Since winning the championship game at LSU, coming into a dysfunctional organization, turning them around, winning his first playoff game last week, and this week, despite being sacked 9 times by the Tennessee Titans, 9 times he was sacked, he still stepped up, threw for 348 yards, and only turned the ball over 1 time, despite getting that level of pressure. The Bengals were the worst offensive line this weekend. And Joe Burrow, when it mattered most in the clutch, put together a drive to get the Bengals in field goal position to win the football game. That is an elite quarterback. Number 5, the Tennessee Titans need a new quarterback. Their defensive line had 9 sacks of Joe Burrow, guys. 9 sacks, and they lost the game. Derrick Henry, 62 yards and a touchdown coming off of injury. A.J. Brown, 142 yards and a touchdown. And the Titans defense held the Bengals to 19 points, and they lost the game. Why? Because Ryan Tannehill went 15 of 24 for 220 yards and a touchdown and 3 interceptions. Tannehill turned the ball over. He turned the ball over on Saturday, and that lost the game for the Titans. We saw this last season. It's clear that if the Titans really want to be a Super Bowl championship team, they're going to have to get better quarterback play. I think they've got to start looking at some of these free agents this year. Maybe the disgruntled Aaron Rodgers is a sneaky option for the Titans to get in there somehow, some way. A trade. Ryan Tannehill is not that guy. So with that being said, let's head straight into the news with Brent Hughes. Here are the top headlines coming out of this weekend in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, number 1 headline. Is this the last time we see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packers uniform? After all the drama in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers expressing his dislike for the Packers front office, the decisions they've made with guys that they've cut, draft picks that they've made, how they've handled Aaron's contract situation, their lack of offering him an extension, his desire to win, and feeling like the Packers haven't put him in the best position there, despite the loaded roster that they have. Aaron laid it all out, and honestly, I wasn't mad at him for it. The Jordan Love pick was egregious, and they should have given him better pieces. After just losing the NFC Championship game the year prior, they drafted a quarterback. I thought that was disrespectful. So did Aaron. So he held out. Didn't show up to camp until the last minute, and finally decided in the end that he was going to come play with his teammates. Put together a great season, got the number 1 seed in the NFC, and fizzled out in their first playoff game in the divisional round after a bye week. So now, here's Aaron Rodgers postgame on what his future entails in Green Bay.
You know, there's obviously a lot of decisions to be made. There's a lot of players that whose futures are up in the air. So, you know, definitely it'll be interesting to see which way some of those decisions go. And, you know, but I'll have the conversations with Brian and, you know, in the next week or so and get a little bit more clarity and think about my own future and how much longer I want to keep doing this.
So Aaron Rodgers right there, seemingly alluding to retirement, talking about how much longer does he actually want to do this. I think that's a hint at possible retirement. He's leaving it out there in the realm for discussion, the realm for thought, just the same way Brett Favre did. The Packers are doing this again. You want my opinion? Aaron Rodgers is gone. I think he's joining the Steelers, the Broncos, some team, the New Orleans Saints, a team that's in contention. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a Packer next year. I think he's had it with the organization. When you seriously take a look at the cap situation, it is a catastrophe. They are so far over the cap without contracts for Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. There is no chance everybody that's in this offense gets brought back. Davante, Aaron, Allen Lazard, Tanyan, their players on defense, offensive line, they can't pay them all. So this team on paper is going to get worse. They went all in this year with contracts, over the cap, got Aaron to come back, got Davante Adams to play 1 year without an extension. Listen, they could put Davante Adams on a franchise tag to keep him. It's just going to make him unhappy. Aaron Rodgers, they won't have enough money for him. Someone's going to have to take a serious pay cut. I don't see it happening. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to take a long look at the Pittsburgh Steelers I think he's going to take a long look at the Denver Broncos. The Saints are an honorable mention, but I don't think the Packers want to work out a trade to send him in the NFC. They'd have to see him maybe in the playoffs if they could get there. Probably not with Jordan Love. I think he's a Pittsburgh Steeler or Denver Bronco at the beginning of next season, assuming he continues to play football, which I do think he will. But as far as that goes, I think he's out of Green Bay. And the Bears fan in me couldn't be happier because the division in the NFC North is going to be wide open. Probably favorited for the Minnesota Vikings just off of talent on the roster alone at this moment in time. But it's wide open for the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions and the Packers to all be competitive in that division with each other. Aaron Rodgers is on his way out. All right, so let's shift to Tom Brady, who was once again, of course, he's over 40. He's won 7 Super Bowls. There's constant reports about his wife, Giselle, wanting him to come be a family man, leave football for the past. He's done enough. He's won so much. What more does he have to prove? What more could he win? Here's Tom Brady after the game.
I think the point is there's no really rush for me to figure out what's next. I'll know when I know. And it's a day after the season. So I think for all of us, we can all decompress a bit. It's been 6 straight months of football every day consumed by, day in and day out football. And I think now it's just some time to spend some time with my family and spend some time with, my kids. The biggest difference now that I'm older is I have kids now too, and I care about them a lot as well. They've been my biggest supporters. My wife is my biggest supporter. It pains her to see me get hit out there. She deserves what she needs from me as a husband, and my kids deserve what they need from me as a dad.
So the idea of Tom Brady retiring is actually a very interesting one. I think this season ended a little bit earlier, obviously, than he had envisioned. Don't think many people saw the Bucs falling short of the NFC Championship game at the beginning of the year, but a lot of things happened. They lost Chris Godwin. They lost Antonio Brown. And so this game came down to that Rams dominant offense against the Bucs defense, and could the Bucs keep up? They did their best shot. They gave their best shot. Tom Brady put them in a position, and that defense put them in a position to come back and tie the game late. Matthew Stafford just didn't fold this time. So the Bucs go home. When it comes to Tom Brady, I think he wants to play another season. I know he doesn't want to go home with that sour taste in his mouth, but it's interesting because he either goes home on top or he goes home with a sour taste in his mouth. The argument for him retiring is he's won 7 Super Bowls. You just lost in the divisional round. So you could walk away feeling like, I've given it my all. I've won 7 of these things. We fell up short this year to a better team, a better offense, and specifically in this offseason, as Brady alluded to in his press conference, the team's not going to look the same next year. There's more guys that have to be paid. The cap number is going to get difficult in Tampa Bay as well. And so if this Bucs team can't be better next year, we know AB's not coming back. Godwin's going to miss a lot of the season with that torn ACL. He tore it at the very end of the season. So he's going to be out most of the year next year. So the Bucs are likely a lesser football team on paper heading into next year. So Tom Brady could use all that information and could say, you know what? I've won 7. I got Tampa 1 in my first year with them, hosted a Super Bowl and won it. I'm going to walk off into the sunset and call it a day. Now, the competitor in Tom Brady, I believe, is going to drive him to come back again next season and play another season of football. I think unless his family can convince him to leave, I think he'll be right back in Tampa Bay fighting for one last hurrah. I also think it's worth noting that, in my opinion, if Tom Brady was going to retire, I know he's not much of a nostalgia guy. He wasn't like that when he was on his way out in New England. He never announced it was specifically that it was his final year. So people didn't really know to celebrate him or not. I think that if Tom Brady was going to retire, it'd be nice to have one season where it's his final year. He gives it one last run at the Super Bowl. Win or loss, kind of like Peyton Manning did. Win or lose, try to get to the Super Bowl, try to leave on top. If you don't, you had your farewell tour. Guys got to play against, play for, play with Tom Brady for the last time. My prediction, he plays one more season, and it might be his final season next year. So I want to end today by giving an update of the Bears head coaching search. Chicago topic for you here. And so right now, the Bears it's been announced that round 2 interviews for the Bears, they're bringing back Matt Eberflus for a second interview, defensive coordinator. They're bringing back Dan Quinn for a second interview, defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Jim Caldwell, former Lions head coach, former Colts head coach, coming in to interview with the Bears again. They will also do their first interviews with Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And it's important to note that since the Bills, Buccaneers, and the Packers just lost, it's highly possible that we'll see teams, possibly the Bears as well, scheduling second interviews with guys like Brian Daboll, Leslie Frazier from Buffalo, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles from Tampa Bay, Nathaniel Hackett from the Packers. Not interested in Hackett personally. Not interested in Bowles personally. Leslie Frazier, maybe. I'm interested to hear more from Brian Daboll and Brian Leftwich for sure. I think Nathaniel Hackett, I think that's a fraud hire. Just like Kellen Moore, I think that would be a fraud hire. Luckily, the Bears aren't interviewing him. But it's looking like the Bears might go defense this year. Matt Eberflus coming in for a second interview. Dan Quinn. Dennis Allen added to the list. It's looking like the Bears are interested in defensive coaches, at least 2 of them for the second round interview. Jim Caldwell, been a head coach twice, so I don't know if I want to give him either side of the ball. I think he leans more to be an offensive guy. You guys know, I just really, really, really want somebody to come in to Chicago who can take the quarterback position seriously and develop Justin Fields. That's what the Bears need. I want to see progress. I want to see Josh Allen type progress if we want to bring in Brian Daboll. I want to see a guy who's just coached Tom Brady for the last 2 years in Byron Leftwich to come coach a young quarterback in Justin Fields. That's what I want to see. I want to see Justin Herbert level quarterback play. Improvement from Justin Fields next year. The talent is too high. We're talking about Josh Allen, 6'4", 240. Justin Fields is 6'3", 230. I mean, when we're talking about the size, arm strength, scramble ability, throw on the run, it's all there. It's all there. Can we please get a guy in-house who knows how to develop a quarterback so that Justin Fields can be the star that he was born and gifted to be? That's all I ask. And if it's a defensive guy that we hire, can we please get a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator who knows how to scheme for a young, mobile, athletic, big-arm quarterback? That's all I ask. It's looking like the Bears might be leaning toward defense. We've got second-round interviews. Let's wait to see what happens with the Bucs guys, the Bills guys, and let's see what they do. But right now, the finalists for the Bears head coaching search so far: defensive coordinator for the Colts, Matt Eberflus; defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, Dan Quinn; and former head coach of the Lions and the Indianapolis Colts, Jim Caldwell. Those guys are coming in for a second round. Thanks for listening to The Brent Hughes Show on Top Fan TV, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And I'll see you next time.